Hey everyone, this is Baylor, and in this video I'm going to show you how to protect your website from cross-site forgery requests. While the acronym that's not the correct acronym form, it does sound better in English when speaking. The thing is cross-site request forgery, or forgery request, I guess. Forged request, I don't know. We won't worry about that. But here I've created two examples that we're going to try to help protect. We have a form submission and we have a rating system. Now, the form submission, as you probably imagine, is a post request in PHP. That is, I actually have, I think, right here, post, as opposed to get, like so. So this is a post request. It's very common on multiple websites, and the thing is if I added this post, then it gives me it's just a mock or slimed, I guess, but it's not a real thing. It just tells me that my comment has been added, and it's just there to make it feel real. Um, but the thing is that this is not really protected, because if I was going to try to be malicious, I could just copy this URL. I could open up my command line and say curl -d, and that says my post data. I'm going to set my name equal to hacker and my content equal to booyah or something like that. I've never written that before. I don't know if that's right. But if we do this right here, then it tells me that apparently I did not remove all the code from my example earlier. Yes, this right here. This is not supposed to be there. Okay, let's try this again. Do this again, and you can see that it didn't work. What did I do wrong? I misspelled comment. Okay, get back over here, spell it properly, and when I do this, now you can see that it gives me my yay, your comment has been added. Now, sorry for the mistakes, but as you can see that I was able to trick my web server into thinking that I had submitted this form from the website when in fact I had done it from a third-party place, I guess. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out a way to protect this. Now, the other example that I have is this rating system, and this is just a very simple, it's not great looking, but I just put these 5 links on here, and if you look down at the status bar down in the bottom left corner, you can see how it works. I just added the get request or the query string for rate equals 4, 3, 2, 1, depending on which one I hover on. When I click on this, then you can see it goes to this URL, but there's no protection, because if I wanted to, I could say, well, here's the URL for rating to 5, and I could open up my command line, and I could do curl, and I could just run this link, and you can see it would theoretically post to this. So then you can put that in an infinite loop, or maybe 1,000 or so, and you could boost your score very quickly and very easily. So we're going to learn how to protect from both of these events. While the form is going to be a post request, this is going to be a get request. So the easiest way, or the way we're going to do this, is we're going to create a class. So let's create a new folder for classes and a form or a file called Request Protection, because that's our class name. It's going to be class request protection. Now the way we want to do this is, let's go back to our form file. And we want to have it set up where we can say, well, we can include the file first, and we can get our classes, request protection.php, and we're going to create a new instance of this. So request equals new request protection. And here we're going to be able to put out echo out a request meta tag. Now the meta tag is just going to be, we'll look at it, it's going to be very simple. I guess what we'll do first is just start out with hash. Because, and let me rewrite this. We're going to write a meta tag. The name of this is going to be CSRF token, and the value is going to be equal to this right here. Okay, so this is how I want this to work. We're also going to go into our form, and I'm just writing all this out, and it'll probably make sense when I'm done. But for now, just kind of ignore this. This is just there for later on. We're going to add in the form, this is where the important part is, we're going to add an input type equals hidden, which means it's not editable, although you could edit it in like inspector or something. This is going to have a name of CSRF token and a value equal to this again. Okay, so this is how we want it to work. And the way we want this to validate, because we're going to put our hash here in the CSRF token, we want to validate it by saying, and our request is valid. So there's a lot of things that I'm already assuming. First of all, we're going to have, I don't know the best way. Let's just write the code and then I'll go back and explain. But for now, hopefully you can kind of see how this page flow works. We create a variable for request. It's equal to a new instance of this class. We have a property for hash, which is going to be a random hash of some sort that's going to specify what our CSRF token is. It's also going to set it down here in the form where it gets sent with the form. So we send our name, we send a comment, and we can access it through here. At the same time, it's also going to send a hash for us that we can validate with the request is valid method. So let's go ahead and add some stuff here. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have our public property for our hash. The other thing we're going to have is a function called isValid. Okay, so what we're going to do, how do we want to start off with this? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to store our hash that we create with this when we initialize this. We want to store it in a property, and we also want to store it in a session, because when we store it in a session, then it's kind of like a server. I don't know where a session is normally stored, but it's kind of like a server behind the scenes variable that gets passed around between multiple page requests. So we'll also have our constructor function. And when the page starts, we want to set this hash equal to, we're going to set this to equal to our session request hash, or request token. That's going to be equal to MD5, a unique ID. Now, unique ID generates, I don't know how long the string is, it's like 10, 12 characters, something like that. It's not very long. And this generates something like 31, 32 characters. I don't know the length of these off the top of my head, but basically this is going to create a small random string based on time, or maybe even micro time. I don't know what it is exactly. This is going to be this is going to hash this right here. So if we go ahead and reload this page over here, we should go ahead and start seeing some things starting to work. So view the page source. You can see that we have a CSRF token, and it's equal to this random string, and it's also down here in our input or in our form. Now, something that I said is that I'd like to set this up right here where we can just put out a meta tag. If you remember correctly, we're going to say echo request meta tag. So this is just going to be this right here. So we take this out, we put a new function down here for meta tag. Then we're going to return a string that looks like this. And right here, we'll do some concatenation. And we'll put in this hash. So if we view the page source again, now you can see we have the exact same thing, but now it's a little bit more, a little bit easier to read. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is figure out how to prove that this is a valid request. Now, what do we know? Well, we know that this is going to be posted in a token, or in our post CSRF token. So when we check for is valid, we want to make sure if is set our post CSRF token. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to make sure our value of this is equal to our session for request token. So if we set this to post CSRF token equals, and we'll do 3 equals for our session request token, we are going to return true. Now, what we could possibly do is just put this down here and return it directly. So return this, and I'm going to wrap this down here in parentheses just to help clarify that this is a separate thing from this. If we run this, though, you can see that it does not give us our little message. And the reason it doesn't give us this message, well, for one, I didn't start my session. So session start. Run this again. Now it's not working because this request token gets changed every time this constructor is called. So the best way that I know to prevent that is just to come up here and say if is set our session request token. Then we want to store our request token, so this previous hash is equal to our session request token. So come up here, create a private property for previous hash, and we're going to check to make sure that this is equal to our previous hash. So this previous hash. Now if we run this, you can see it's passing. So it's a very simple setup. This is a very simple code that works. That just makes sure that you have a valid CSRF token. Now, one thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to set it up so that this is more dynamic, because you're probably not going to always want CSRF token, and primarily when we get to our GET request. So I'm going to do it now. We're just going to set our key equals by default CSRF token, and we're going to put that in here instead of this, so key. Okay, so if we do this again, same result, doesn't change, but here I could change this to valid or something like that. And then I could change it down here as well. Add post, and now it's working again. Now, the reason we put it up here in a meta tag is because here we can also put in a valid key, I guess. We could do the same thing that we did right here, just to make it easier. Now, the reason we put it in a meta tag is because if we view the source, and I just load it directly, you can see that we have access to this, and this is going to be capable of being pulled out from JavaScript. That's the main reason for this, is that if we want to make a post AJAX request with JavaScript, we can do it very easily by pulling out the CSRF token and appending it to whatever we submit. That is the main reason for it. But theoretically, if you wanted to make this form AJAX capable, then all you have to do is just have it automatically submit this form and just not reload the page, because this is already in the form. Right here you can see it's already in the form. So this is valid, this is working, that's the way I want it to go. Now when we get over here to rating system though, how do we want this to work? Well, let's go ahead and load that file up. And the first thing that I want to do is come on here, and I'm going to append proof equals, and here I'm going to echo out my request hash. Now, two things we need to do is, one, we need to include and initialize this. Second thing we want to do is put out our meta tag, just because it's nice to have it there. So when we reload this page and I click on one of these links, you can see it gives us our proof here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here and say if is set or get our rating right here, then I'm going to put up my notice, and here we say yay or awesome, dude. You totally voted for, and then here we're going to echo out our request, our get rate. So if we do this, you can see, awesome dude, you totally voted for 2 or 5 or whatever we want. And if I copy this over and I put it into my command line, you can see, oh, wrong thing, Carl, like this, you can see that we voted for 4. And we could put this in an infinite loop, and we could just keep voting and voting and voting for 4 or 5, whatever we wanted. Now, so how do we want to prevent this? Well, you can already see that we're getting this hash right here at the end of it. So what we're going to do is just going to say, and our request is valid. Now, one thing that we have changed is this is no longer CSRF token, so let's put that in here as proof. But even with this, this is no longer working because our request token, or is valid, only works with post request. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap all of this in parentheses, if I can hit the right key, and I'm going to add an or. I'm just going to tab out to it and say, and we'll just copy this whole thing. And we're going to change this over to get. And if I try this again, now you can see this is voting properly. Now, I'm not pleased with this code. I don't see this as being like, oh, this is totally readable and really optimized. But in this screencast, I don't know exactly how to, optimize this and make it more readable. When I originally wrote it, I had it in to, or had an if else like this, and said if our post is valid, so post here, and then this would be another if, and then get here. But I don't like that either, because then you have two returns. So the only thing that makes me think this is okay is that this is very simple. It only does one thing, and it's never going to do anything more than this. That is the only reason that I'm okay with just publishing this code right here. So, yep, that's everything for this whole video. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, if I wasn't clear on something, if you want to know more about something, you can just leave it in a comment and I'll try to reply. Thank you for watching again, and goodbye.